Hello, welcome all of you after the break. Now we have the session by Mr. Rahul Pandey and Vasant Priya. So we have Vasant Priya, who is product owner, Digitate of TCS, popularly known as Priya, comes with a 25 plus years of industry experience comprising of software development, software testing, assurance, project management, program management, test consulting, specialized testing, delivery management, product delivery, vertical LOB, management, and multiple business verticals. She is certified professional scrum master and an agile ninja coach. Apart from these, she has managed a specialized testing services comprising of automation performance across all business verticals for 2 years. She has working experience of various service companies, product companies, and captives through service companies. We also have Mr. Rahul Pandey, who is Product Marketing Manager of Digital TCS. He is currently working as Marketing and Strategy Manager for Ignio AI Assurance, an autonomous testing product. He possesses the passion for market research and analysis, which have been valuable in designing AI assurance and making it closer to the customer's need. Rahul is also a stock market mentor as well as actively helps aspiring MBA students through YouTube channels. Thank you, Rahul. Thank you, Vasant. Priya, I'm handing over the session to you now. It's all on you. Thank you.
Thank you, Vidhi.
Yeah, so Priya, you can start probably.
Thank you, Rahul. Good afternoon, everyone. We are here to talk about the autonomous assurance product. I think Vidhi had already given a brief introduction about myself, Priya, and Rahul.
Hi everyone. Good afternoon. Yeah. Yes.
Going on to the agenda, what I can promise you in this session is we will make it as interactive as possible. End of the session, you would be, taking away some key input about the future of the space, as well as, a broad idea or a vision about what more we can do in this space. That's where we will be heading towards. And, we are part of Digitate. I'll give you a brief introduction about Digitate too before we get on to the real session, because Digitate is a product arm of TCS. And of course, everybody knows about TCS. But this organization has been in existence from 2015 onwards as Digitate. And we have Ignio as our flagship product, which caters to closed loop enterprise, software areas. Our focus of Ignio overall is in terms of bringing the business assurance, bringing agility towards the entire business, bringing high, customer experiences as well as productivity improvement. And of course, being a product organization, we are loaded with a lot of patents, 80 plus patents we have, and have a rich awards and accolades in our kitty. Having briefed about it, let's now go into the core session. I would request all of you for a second to just close your eyes. Just close your eyes for a second. Yeah, just listen to me. Yeah. Now, imagine a world when as soon as a code is developed, autonomously testing happens. And most of the defects are self-fixed and only very few are passed on to the developers. Now you can open your eyes. Do you think this is a reality? A poll, please. I want to hear from each one of you. Is it a reality? Will it really happen, or is it happening? Please poll for this answer so that we get some idea of what exactly your processes are. I'm yet to see. Okay. Waiting for you all to actually share your poll. Whatever be it, I mean, is this a real thing? Many people have said it is going to be 15, 5 years, 18% people have polled, almost 15% of people have polled 10 years. Very nice. Nice to hear this. Let's talk about how is it going to be and where we can be and where we can really head towards that, right? Rahul, what is your thought now on this particular topic? Where are we heading? What are your thoughts in this area?
Sure, Priya. I mean, so as I would be a tester or software developer, I would naturally want the world to be perfect, as you mentioned. I mean, I want to be the codes to be perfect. However, the world is not perfect. There are software outages that we see in the daily scenarios. We did talk about the digitization that is going into the market. This pandemic has covered in all the aspects. The banks are moving towards the digitization. We would say everything. I mean, let's say you are doing any payment on the services, you are doing on any commodities, you are going for tourism. Everything is going digitized. But again, the issues are rising exponentially. Number one, the meetings are going on virtually, but we did see the outages, and the outages are for 1 or 2 days or something, and the actual issues are still undetected. I mean, for 1 and 2 days, they are left undetected. The companies or the organizations don't know where the actual issues are, and that creates somewhere the panic or somewhere the confusions in the mind. The Teams, Microsoft Teams, Zoom, these are the popular examples that we did saw. They had the outages. Banks, we talked about the banks. Let's say any of the bank we see, we are using the apps, but again, the customer experiences are going down. The banks are going completely. The outages are frequently common nowadays. The services are not available 24 cross 7 to the customers. They are ensured, but yes, we can see SDFC banks recently. RBI asked them, they gave the mandate to stop selling the credit cards till they remove all the defects from the websites, till they maintain their websites. Tourism, we feel that tourism involves very less technology, but not that's not true. Tourism involves a lot of technologies, and we did see that the flights are being diverted to a different situations. We are not able to get the tickets on the counters. We are not able to reach the destinations on time, and these outages lead to billions or millions of losses. Let's move on to what analysts are saying about where the testing is heading. So the testing is completely evolving throughout the decades. It's moving on from manual to assisted intelligent, and now we are aiming on to the autonomous. But again, analysts have a viewpoint on this. We know very much about the Gartner hype cycle. The Gartner hype cycle is a guardian or is the custodian for many of the principles. What it talks about the autonomous testing in the hype cycle for Agile and DevOps 2020 talks that autonomous testing will be booming for 5 to 10 years from now. They are talking in 2020, I would repeat that. So 2025 or 2030 is the time till which we can see an exponential demand of autonomous testing. And we know the reasons why. Again, we see if the autonomous testing is going to come to the market, what is there for developers. What 2021 State of Test Automation report states that Agile and DevOps maturity is driving the shift of testers into DevOps features. Again, AI-enabled automation tools will be the most adopted by 2024. Omdia report, along with Digitate, that got published, it surveyed the organizations and confirmed that why autonomous assurance is critical for the DevOps teams to the delivery. Again, there are similar reports that assure that automation is at the core of being adaptive, and autonomous is the next future. So, Priya, I just want to know your views. I mean, what are your views on this?
Sure, Rahul. But let's see a quick, video on this, and
Sure.
it will create the thought process for everybody too.
Definitely. So here's the video.
I think many of you would resonate with this particular story. Yes, whenever we start testing, we always want to test more and we do not have enough time. And then there is a obvious question about the cost. So to find the right balances between all these is the key success for the testing. So how? Because a lot of speakers have spoken about the AI in testing, DevOps, becoming a more prominent, connecting the dot, and also about how can we test early, in the unit testing state itself. Exploratory testing will not die. I mean, so many topics that we did here, throughout from yesterday morning till now. With the latest technology, let us see what exactly that we have envisioned and we have been working on in our IGNIO AI dot assurance product. You all are very well aware when we get a requirement, we really look through those requirements, understand the requirements, try to identify what are the testable elements and so on and so forth. Be it at every layer, whether it is with respect to your functional or security or performance or and now of course we have broadened our area. We just don't look at functional, but beyond every aspect of testing we have started looking at. And we write our scenarios, we write our, identify what kind of input or the test cases we need to build around it. Then what are the validation that we need to, put. And after that, we actually write the automation script. In the world of agility, in the world where we want to, move so swiftly and fastly, is there a time for, doing all this? And with new technology coming into space, right? I mean, it not necessarily everything, we have to rely on new technology, but combining the new and the old technologies, can something be done? With that kind of a notion, we have tried to, I would say, scratch the surface of what Gartner had envisioned in 5 to 10 years. We have started probably a good inroad into the space. What we talk about here or what we have explored are with respect to building the test suite itself. That is the test cases, the test scenarios, automation script autonomously. And similarly, if an application undergoes a change, how does these get changed? Because this is another bigger problem. I mean, none of our applications are, we can't say that it is not going to change, right? It will continuously change, it will evolve, and according to the situations that we are in, particularly during the pandemic, the way the business changed was so beautiful, I would say. It brought in various avenue. People thought out of box to do their businesses, right? So there, then the first impact happens is on the software. So how does that phase to move quickly when the application changes happen? How testing has to look at self-healing of those test suite. That is another feature that we have tried to build in. And data generation is another area, because input data, what we have to use for the testing, is another area. We have done quite a lot of research around it, and we have come up with something. And with the data assist, that is on the validation side, which is another business, I would say the crux of what to test: negative, positive. Once you have all the scenarios and all the test cases available to you, it is only about validation. What you want to see whether it is working, or don't want to see that it is like failing. That is what you're going to check there. There again, we have done a kind of looking at the requirements to any kind of spec, structured, unstructured information, and bringing out a direct value. And this is true shift left. If you really see, from a testing life cycle, I will talk about a shift left and other life cycle a little later. But in a testing life cycle, this is a true shift left. When we are even writing a scenario, that it doesn't match with what the development team is thinking through or going through or developed. This is the smart data assist, we call it as, for validation. And the intelligent test selection is all about the testing, right? When we pick up what to test, you have only 2 days of time, or you have 5 weeks, or you have 2 weeks, whatever be your period of testing. Ideally, in agility, in the sprints, you don't have such kind of a thing. You get it and you test it and you deliver it, right? Someone has to intelligently go and pick up what to test so that your production failures are low. So here what we are talking about is the product telling you that, these are the things that you can do, whether it is an optimized or so-called smoke test or a regression, just comparing and giving you the, changes that it is going, the application has gone through, and the relevant test scenarios and the automation script. Those are the things this intelligent test selection does. And of course, dashboards, because dashboards are something which all of us rely on for the go-no decisions. And a lot of metrics we infer from it, and hence the dashboard we have highlighted. Here we are talking about the dashboard from two perspectives. One is the value perspective of the product itself. The other one is the business benefit perspective of the the overall release cycle and their improvements in those spaces. So net, if you see, these are, again, as I'm saying, we are just talking about some areas in the big gamut of things that we can do. So the scope is more and more, and it is evolving as emphasized within. We are there now. Today, can we use this product live? Yes, we can. We are using it for many customers. So it is happening. So when we got the poll, we had very few people said that already there. Most of them, I would say almost close to 50-60% or more than that, I would say, have some haven't answered. So I'm taking the count from the people who have answered. It is going to be around 10 years and 5 years. So this is a wake-up call. This is where I wanted to, the promise that I made. The future of testing is, though predicted 5-10 years, it will become an autonomous testing. It is not so. It is very quick. Things can move very fast. You can see it happening now, and it will mature within next 1-2 years, and it will be highly matured in the 5 years time frame, which Carter has said. So that's how it's going to be. So watch out. Look out for all the opportunity in this, the entire testing life cycle, where all we can actually make a change and shift this entire, direction towards autonomous testing. I'll show you a quick demo also of this product, because there might be hundreds of questions, and I know for sure Q&A is going to be populated with the questions, but a quick demo would probably help you to at least yes, it is just not on a theory. It is possible. That's the view I want to bring it to table. That's why this demo. Yeah, Rahul?
Sure. Yes, Priya. So we are all set now.
Yep.
Yes. We.
Thank you. So here what we do is we just capture, as soon as we log into the product, just the application URL, and here if you ask the question whether it is only web, no, it is not just the web, desktop, any kind of an application. So you just build a pipeline. This is the pipeline we call it as. We build the pipeline which actually undergoes and gets all the context that are relevant from that application. It extracts all the information. All the information that is extracted, we just get a confirmation from the end user, because that confidence, that yes, this could bring in all the information, there will be a bit of this thing. Hence, we are giving them a kind of a look and feel to give a confirmation for what the AI has captured or the product has captured. As you keep on, doing the pipeline building, it will navigate and scan through the breadth and the depth of the applications, and it will actually build your complete application blueprint. That is what you're seeing on the left panel. Is this really practically possible in our human related testing? No, right? We don't have that full blueprint available to us, even visually see where the impacts are. Here you can actually see where the impacts are and how the things are changing. What are the new things that are getting added? All those are visibly seen. And all for each of those, you're seeing here the scenarios being created. Every area the scenario is getting created. It doesn't just stop actually with respect to the scenario creation. As I said, blueprinting, understanding the context, scenario creation is another area. And of course, it builds the data, right? You need to have that kind of input data for you to test. So those kind of data sets also gets built by itself. Here, as I said, no manual human intervention. So all these are built by itself. Now, having built all this, you can actually baseline every release that you're making, or every time that an application undergoes change, you can actually baseline it. Once it is baselined, your automation script is ready. You are not doing anything further. Now, here is an example. This is the second feature that I spoke about, remediation, or if an application undergoes change. What happens? You again come back and just generate the pipeline, right? You click on the pipeline, it identifies which areas got impacted, and it pulls out those impacted areas and publishes to you again for reconfirmation. In this case, we just added a buy button on the page, and you again reconfirm to the product that yes, all the information captured by the product is fine, and it actually goes on and building the rest of the flow, which is the further navigation. So it can be a screen, some item deleted, added, edited, whatever it is, all kind of changes that happen. Or if some, drop down choice, whatever is changed, all of those underlying business logic, as well as the UI logics, if it is undergoing change, it understands and it actually identifies those kind of, changes and gives you those changes. The same changes gets reflected on the scenario, and you're seeing additional scenarios that are getting generated, and it will actually keep varying. Sometimes if you're removing certain things from your thing and you're compressing your entire application, then your scenarios could go down. But net, it takes into consideration what the changes are, and it actually builds in your scenarios. And now if you, again, if you want to go back and see what exactly, on the perform side, the automation side, right? Now your baseline 2 is available because you've baselined it, and you can see that the baseline information is, available for your execution. That means the automation script is ready. Here you again see that intelligent test selection, that is on the type of scenario, where it can be optimized, choose, it could be in a business change. So this is where we used to spend time in identifying, and we don't know whether we have really selected the right one, right? This is where it actually brings in that information, and it just lists the complete scenario for you, and you run it, and there you go. This is like run and execution as the bread and butter of the automation, which you all would be using at this point of time, and we've been using for ages, probably even 2 decades now. You execute them and you get the results. These are all quite normal, right? I mean, as long as an automation script is ready and your entire scenarios are ready, you just execute them and you see the results. And you can see those results in the summary reports. And as I mentioned here, the key thing is with respect to seeing the decision making information, whether what's the kind of spend that we are making, whether the product we have really gained the speed, or whether there is risk in releasing this kind of a product, are all these things that we really look into to figure out whether there needs to be a kind of a business a decision that we need to make. So this is a brief of what we have. I would say is scratch the surface of the autonomous testing, and lot more to do. That's where I'm insisting in this session more on lot more to do, because definitely the future is big, opportunities is huge. Yes, if you look at what it brings to the table, right? Yeah. Before that, let me ask a poll again, because I keep talking and then I don't get a feedback and I don't feel comfortable. I'm that kind of a person. So probably poll again so that I can get to see what exactly you've understood and what do you think is nice in this entire thing. I'll give a couple of seconds so that all of you can respond. I'll give some time because last time I didn't give so much of time and I couldn't really get the complete information of this thing. Very nice. Thank you, guys. 71% have polled. Something more, guys, if you can. Rest of you. Okay. Autonomous generation and remediation seems to be catching up with everybody, and everybody seems to be happy about that. Okay. And share your innovative thought process if you have, because those are something which it will be really good. I mean, we can chat in the lobby too later. Think out of box, think different is my that's the only submission I'm trying to make here. Coming to the benefits, because end of it, whatever we do is all about what we give it to customer. As I mentioned early too, right, with the agile coming into picture, most of the time I'm seeing, because I've been interacting with quite a few customer stakeholders, various forums, various industry experts, they say that they've stopped doing automation, and this is a revelation actually for me. And in the functional and the core area of the testing, I'm not talking about the overall. There we will talk about it a little later. Why? Because within a sprint, they want to deliver. So they know that this is the features that has come in. So test that and deliver it. If there are an issue today in the current world, unless it is a major outages, which Rahul mentioned, right, which causes the complete panic. If there are certain acceptable defects, let me put it that way, it is okay. That's the kind of mindset people are in, because within the next 2 weeks to 3 weeks, there is another release, there is another delivery, right, that's going to happen, and it can be fixed in that. And unless the existing working functionalities or existing core functionality, I can't say that in a banking system the payment goes down, right? That's a major flaw, right? Not that kind of an issue. I'm talking about a moderate, medium, low kind of an issues, right? People are okay with taking it to the next sprint. That's a big mind shift that I am seeing, being in this industry for almost closer to now 3 decades. But it is a big change for me. The quality is like I need to be as much as close that there are not so much of an issue. If at all they catch, let it be a very cosmetic or a low kind of a defect is what I used to think early days. But no, the things have changed with agility. And thinking of other area, people think if it is an automation, right, instead of doing that sprint, we do it in a sprint plus one. We can automate in the next sprint. We will thoroughly test. That's a risk mindset people come with. One set of people are okay to take a risk. The other set of people are, I'm okay to skip one sprint and I will deliver it in the next sprint. But I will ensure that, maximum coverage and a maximum, kind of a quality. Because that's a balance which I feel today the industry is struggling with. That's where, the initial video which Rahul played also is all about cost, quality and time. As long as we are able to get that equilibrium perfect, I think we are good. So what we are saying is this entire thing, features that will bring in the speed or the time to market, with exponential as 6x time, as well as reduce the cost of quality. This one I already touched upon when we spoke about how the shift left principle truly in the spirit of testing life cycle. I know I've been hearing this shift left for more than 10 to 15 years now, but that truly shift left is what I was trying to identify. So this area here is, I would say, truly shift left, because you're comparing the code straight onto your face with your requirement at that specific location, and hence your focus would be very high to identify such kind of an issue. And I mean, in a lot of, because Ignio is not a product only for the assurance space, it also covers the ops. Ops side, how much of issues we have and what kind of struggles that the operation team goes through is a bigger nightmare. And if we can catch that up in the game here, I think that's the best thing that we can do to them. And coming to the efficiency, this, I know there will be a question. Let me try to answer it now only. If the efficiency improves to this extent of 70% and plus, here we are talking about the complete life cycle of the testing, whichever phase it is, whether it is a functional or it is a whichever type of the phase it is, right? What happens to the testers, right? That's a broader question to be answered. I would say, let me give an example here again. When we came into the early days, the data entry was one of the big job, right? And in fact, people felt that if all the data is getting into the system, the job loss for the manual people will be there. But today, you may not be hearing a lot of data entry part, right? With the AI ML coming into picture, the data labeling has come into a bigger, sphere of interest. Because without that kind of an information and training and the content creation, it is impossible for you to really, get the AI to work into the area that you want it to work. Right. Recently, I read an article. I think it's almost 1 lakh kind of an images or something, or more than that. They had to, understand just to get some level of weeds on a plant. I'm not even talking about the software. I'm talking about the weeds of identification in a farming, right? So in every industry you see, this is going to be a huge area. But I'm not saying that's the only space. This is one lower level. There are, for a tester, for an automation tester, as I think Vipul as well as few of the panelists yesterday were speaking about, exploratory thinking, very more beyond, not at a unit level, not at a integration level. Can we think much more and really bring business change kind of scenarios and show that to the business? That is the value that a tester or can do to this industry. So we need that kind of some set of people. And we need some set of people who could, move and actually upskill themselves. I will say, because let me go to the next slide to explain this, because then you will get a big picture of what all is there, right? If you see here, verify or the testing is just one small piece of this entire DevOps. I think everyone or most of the speaker in this, forum had used this DevOps diagram, right? And you can visually see it starts with the plan, create, verify, and release, and then configure to adapt, right? Monitoring and analytics and alerting. So all of this space, there are umpteen numbers of tools available. Every area has a potential to really, do something very different. And being a testing conference, verify phase, I've spoken in depth about AI assurance, where it can bring. So the tester, can they now move a little upstream and create a business requirement because they have such a kind of business knowledge? Because they have a technical knowledge, can they move into the release orchestration and make things truly DevOps? Again, I'm using a word, truly DevOps. People talk about configuring things into the pipeline, right? Creating things manually and pushing it to the pipeline and someone actually checking it. I'm not talking about that. As we spoke to you in the beginning, if you can dream a world, and now I would say I will take the dream to one more step extended. Can we develop a code autonomously? Can we test that autonomously? Can we release that autonomously? If you really see this entire DevOps, what is the focus? Automation and optimization? That means its entire life cycle. thereby bringing the continuous flow to this entire game. Of course, Ignio has various stacks of products on the ops side. You can see the AI ops and DWS, ERP ops, workload management as some of the tools. Cognitive procurement is on the business side. And we spoke about AI assurance. All this covers the ops side. Here, what we talk about is reducing the issues. I mean, even if the issue is the operation, right? How fast we resolve by the products, and so that it actually brings the true business benefit. So scope is vast, area to explore is high. So many tools in the market. There are a lot more to see it in a holistic way. This entire game of software lifecycle is my view. I open it up for the questions. Meanwhile, probably a poll again so that I get to know more interest towards this topic from the audience. Okay.
Hi. It was a lovely session. We got a lot of likes and a lot of hearts.
Thank you.
We have a few questions. So let me just pick them up and I'll ask. Can you showcase any self-healing feature for this?
Yeah, we did actually show you when we were showing you that when there was a introduction of a feature as buy on an application, how does it actually go? And basically it's a context comparison, right? So it compares the context and it actually identifies what has changed and it brings that onto the screen. Maybe I answered it shortly because I actually showed the demo there. And whoever has asked the question, you can visit the booth. We can give you more details. By the way, the poll has saying, quite a lot of people, want to be visiting us. Thank you for that. Please do visit. We'll be more than happy to share more information. And actually, we want to have discussion. We want to hear from you too. Nidhi, we lost you. Probably the other questions.
So one thing from my side, so probably visit our booth. We have a lot of collaterals over there, the brochures and everything. And if you want to know more about our products, I mean, our booth people will be helping you a lot over there. So thanks a lot for being a nice audience.
We'll give a couple of minutes for Nidhi, Rahul. Let me see. Meanwhile, I can read. How efficient has this been? Any results in the efficiency? Yes, you can see the efficiency that was posted there. We already we committed somewhere around 80, when 70% on the screen, but we have seen much, much higher. How do you ensure that all the test cases are covered with the autonomous test suite? When we are designing the man, yes, it's a very interesting question. That's where I said, it has got multi-part. One is to identifying the normal flow, right? That's what you saw. Other one is the validation part, where you want to actually put the negative and the positive, validation onto the areas and see whether it is testing properly. So that part of the information, we pull it out from the requirements and give it to you so that you will be able to, devise your mechanism to enter it. Yeah. Looks like most of us had a blink and Miss Ealing. Okay, you can visit the booth to see that.
Yeah, one more question. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just got disconnected. There was some current issues. So.
No problem, Nidhi. I handed some questions from the chat directly.
All right. Okay. So now I don't know which one has been answered. Okay.
Down I have closed, so you can go from the top.
All right. Okay. Test generation is okay. We have seen this in many tools. However, can you show real-time example of intelligent test identification? Wasn't my question answered?
Not yet answered. Okay. That's where we are not talking only about the data selection. If you had seen, we are talking about the scenario, test cases, and the scripts, right? There are multiple tools. If you really see, you have a repository tool called ALMs and test data management tools. We have data generation, data masking as a separate set of tools. We have automation script creation as a separate set of tools. So we have multiple various tools for each and every specific areas. Here, what we are talking about is first create a scenario, create your test cases. There you add your data. That data being a meaningful data that gets generated and attached to it the test scenarios. That is how we are connecting the dot. So this is the way it is far different, I would say, from the standalone tools.
Okay. So we have another question by Venkatesha. How the tool adapts the self-heal in rigorous CI or CD-enabled software development where dynamic requirements changes are being considered.
Yes. As we already showed you in the demo, when your application undergoes change, any of the changes, as at a UI level or at certain business logic level, it understands that and it pulls and it gives you that changes to you, so that you can confirm whether those are the changes that is the required changes. And once you confirm, it actually takes it into the context and then it actually changes. Gives you the comparison or the view of what has changed for your testing purpose also, selection purpose also. I think these questions came probably before even seeing the video is what I'm thinking, because quite a few questions are on self-healing of the test suits.
Okay. We have another one question. I think this will be the last because we don't have any more. How this tool is helpful for the fintech company to validate all kind of data flow scenarios between different apps like web, MQ, mainframes, and REST APIs.
Excellent. It's a work in progress. Let me put it that way. It is possible. That's where I keep saying the opportunities are plenty. It is possible. Today we are doing it for APIs or the service level, and we are doing it for the web level. And it is just connecting those together to get you the end-to-end view.
All right. I guess that would be the end of the session. It was, in fact, very good. We have got lots of comments, very too much likings and hearts. I think you can also see that. Thank you so much, guys. We will. You can see the speakers in the lobby if you want to discuss further anything. They'll be available always over there. And now we can go to the next session. Okay. Mr. Anil will end up this session. Thank you. Hi, welcome to another session by George Sievers. I would like to tell that we have our sponsors, Boots also working, Platinum sponsors, TAI, Digitate, Platinum sponsors, Digitate, Gold sponsors, Microfocus, Gold sponsors, Sahi Pro. So you can please visit the booth in the break session, and you can always tweet in between the sessions. The most liked tweets will be given prizes. And now I would like to call Mr. George Sievers, who is Test Service Specialist, Signal Iduna Group A. With more than 20 years of experience in different roles in nation and international IT projects, George Sievers has been involved with testing and quality management since 1998 focusing on requirements and specifications, enhancements, automation, business-driven test process improvements, and system integration. He has finished industrial training as specialist and various university courses in food technology. George is ISTQB certified advanced level test manager. In his current role, he establishes as a test service specialist in a team quality from the start for a German insurance group, Signal Iduna. Welcome on stage, Mr. George. I'll hand over the session to you. Yes, George, you can continue. Thank you.
Namaste to India, or Moin, what we say in Germany. So a very warm welcome from Germany. It's early in the morning, and I hope you enjoy my session of business-driven test automation. I will share my desktop now, and after that we will have a small demonstration of how it works, what I want to tell you. So my complete name is Jörg Sievers. I'm from Germany, as I said, and my nickname is Yogi because also other countries have problem to spell my name. So if you want to connect me, just say Yogi, that's okay. I use that nickname around 25 years or so. I started my career in 1986, but not in the IT industry. I was in the food industry, and maybe you know the small fish fingers. I produced them, and I learned how to make specifications and how to produce the stuff we have specified and all stuff like that. And in the meanwhile, the data transmission connection started up, and it was not the internet, it was the mailbox time. And I worked for a small company called Terracom, and we have Next computers, Apple, Sun workstations, and PCs, and so on and so on. I go more deeper into the IT industry, and at the end of it, I worked then for OpenOffice.org. Maybe you know LibreOffice. It's a worldwide, one of the biggest open source projects on earth. And we worked for Sun Microsystems because they bought our company here from Germany. And the last 10 years, I worked for a small company also here in Hamburg. We wrote software for the energy industry in Europe and also for the European Energy Exchange here in Saxonia and Leipzig. And also we have some blockchain projects launched. Maybe you have heard about EnerChain or the new 4.0. This is the energy change in Germany to go to green energy. Since April last year, in the middle of Corona times, I started to work for the Signal Iduna group, and there I'm doing the same I did before. I want to implement test management and coordination and concepts. So we have a small agenda because I want to demonstrate also the stuff we are talking about. The first thing we have to think about, what do we want? Oh, it's a black screen. Sorry. And the second thing we have to think about, if we know what we want, what is the approach and what are the tools? We are not thinking in first time to the tools, we are thinking first time to the approach. Then we have to decide which tools, maybe which requirements do the tools need that we can work with them. And then at the last time, I will show you that what I have talked about. So, you know the testing pyramid, if you're a professional tester, that is the right one. You have a small head of functional tests, and normally you have a broader base of unit and acceptance tests. But the problem is, in the most businesses where I am, it is 180 degrees turned around, and we have many functional tests and less unit tests. So the problem here is that we want to go away from that one, and we want to save the cost. So we want to switch the stuff to the borderline. But the problem is we need to make business tests to take care that the business processes are working. And we are talking today about these small and less tests because we are not doing the tests on the unit test case base or in the acceptance or integration test phase. We want to talk about the business, because the business is driving the IT and not vice versa. If I have looked around, I'm 20 years test automation engineer, and I have seen all the test tools coming up in the past, and they talk about APIs, application programming interfaces. WebDriver, for example, is talking about programming languages, and you have to program something. That is nice, but for business test cases, it's a problem, because the business analysts I work for, they do not understand any programming languages. So, and also the problem is they want to see test results, and most tools do not have test results. You want to give your manager to say, hey, we have all tests passed. I've written down the sources where I have these statements copied from, so you can look around and see the same. If you think about a different approach, you got a driver license, or you will have a driver license in the future, and in the driver license, there's no word about which car you want to use. So you can use a Volkswagen or a Mercedes, or you can use an Opel. It doesn't matter, because you have a driver license. So you have to take care that you use the correct car for your business, what you have to do. So, and that's the same for test automation. You have a driver license that's called test automation, but you have to take care which tools you're using for which kind of tests. And you have to take care on the people working with the tools. Maybe you know you have bought a tool, it costs thousands of dollars, and then nobody is using it. That makes no sense. So we have to take care on the common language, and we have to build in the export knowledge into the expert language into the discussion, and make the three amigos, so tester, business analyst or BA, and a developer talk to each other, and the coders should think about that they are no coders. A tester is no coder. I'm a coder, yes, I have learned to write some code stuff. I won't do that in production ever, but it's okay. But we have to think about the BAs, because they have the acceptance criteria we are talking about. So I copied that from a Vienna talk in 2011. That's the problem. We have developers talking about code, testers about test cases, and business analysts about acceptance criteria or user stories. So we have to find the common language, and that's very important. I was inspired by Ivan Vidian. He has written down something about behavior-driven development, and you know the pattern behavior-driven development. It's good for testers because we want to know what's happening in the system. And so he has said test-driven requirements engineering is in the developer area with TDD, with test-driven development, and also with ATDD on the business side, acceptance test-driven development. We want to have executable specifications, and we want to have implemented behavior-driven development. You have to think about what is which area doing. The developer areas can code, the testers can maybe code, and the business analysts normally do not code. So what we think about, bring the tools you have already in place in that area to them, and they should use that tool they know. So for example, the coder should use the coding tools, and the business area should use the spreadsheets or the documents or whatever they use to create their work. And they should work together on tests. And if they work together, somebody in the developer area will optimize the test code, and somebody on the other side, on the business area, will optimize the business or the professionalism. And they will learn from each other. They will put the knowledge of both areas together, and you get a team, the three amigos, the tester is inside of one of them in the business or developer area, and don't make coders out of everyone. That makes no sense, because the specialist in business should not code, but we should understand what they need. If you look at that, the tool requirements are very high for somebody who's not coding. We see it here on the right side, because they are in the functional area, in the small top of the pyramid, and they just want to say, show me what is in the first heading. That's it. The developers on the other side, in the unit tests and acceptance tests, can use code tools by XPath, CSS, and all stuff you know. That's no problem. But we want, as a tester, look on the customer's view. So we are more on the right side to see what's happening there. And the most tools I have seen are looking to the left side, so to acceptance and unit test base. So they want to know that the implementation. And I do not want to know the implementation. I want to see the view of what the tester is doing or what the customer is doing. So the most tests doing that. You have to know the complete document object model of a web page, for example. That also is the same for other fat clients like C++ or other things. You have to know the insights to make the test happen. And I just want to have that, I want to click the button. I do not want to know the XPath or the CSS or whatever is inside. I want to say, hey, I want to ensure myself. That's my acceptance. And I want to press the next button. That's it. And the tool we want to use for business-driven test automation should make a model on it. So if we change on the first window where you see the code lines, but we are not changing the process of business. So for example, they add here, you see two buttons in the background, you will see it later. They add a third one. Doesn't matter, because if I'm not testing that third one, I do not want to change my test. But if they make a frame around, or they change the CSS style or whatever, I have the problem that the test, which is based on the implementation, will fail. So you will have to pay the maintenance for just the tool, also if it's going the implementation way. So think about the user story and think about the model, what is the test tool is doing. It should take care on the view of customer and not on the implementation. If I'm doing functional tests, you will reduce maintenance cost if your tool is supporting such models. So what is business-driven test automation? The benefits is from the business. We need the business benefits in the foreground, and we have to focus. We have to take care on the focus on the customer perspective, and we have to take care on robustness against implementation changes. So it makes no sense to use a developer tool for functional testing of customer view. So if we think about it, just some minutes. As you have read on the third slide of my presentation, there is something about API and code and programming languages and all stuff like that. That is not the area of business people. So many tool supporters building up on the WebDriver technology, something on top, that you can understand the things as a developer. So you have your XPaths, you have your CSS paths, and whatever you want to use to navigate through the application. But the problem is, I do not want to know the XPaths, the CSS, so I want to travel like a customer through my application, and these tools, they support business-driven test automation. So that is what I want to test, and not the code. I want to test the application which is brought to me by the code. That's a totally different view of what we want to test. And we are a German company, sorry for that. I've written some small translation on it. So we are an insurance company. We have around 11,000 employees, and we are very old, more than 100 years old company. With I think we are the 7th greatest insurer, complete insurer in Germany. So what we also do is your teeth. You want to have a dental insurance, you can do it online on our webpage. And I have written some steps we do not want to use in the demonstration. We have not enough time here at the STeP-IN. So we would use the first 3 ones just to demonstrate you. If you want to talk about that, go to the Titelspan booth where is Sai Pro, or just connect me. I will be here at the STeP-IN, so no problem. I will show you the first 3 steps, how it's working and why is business-driven test automation for acceptance testing better than to use coding test tools. So I put that presentation away and you see my desktop. Yes. On the left side, you see Zahi. Zahi is starting with a good configuration where your browsers are included, but also you can use the same technology, the same approach can you use for desktop, Android, and iOS. And if you're on the Windows platform, they have also included something for SAP, or SAP, we say here in Germany. And you have all you need here in the top level, and can configure. You can configure SSL, for example. You can see the docs, your logs, all the stuff. And I've started here the editor. The editor is it's looked like a web page, but it's for the BA, and that's now my role here. I'm a BA. I'm not a tester, as you know. I have to get my notice. So that's very easy. Dental insurance. That's a test case name. You see, that's not a code tool. That's looks like a spreadsheet. Okay, but the data file is in CSV, so you can put it into the source code version control system as you put the code in. So it's not a binary blob. It's really a text file. So very great. And I can write here my documentation, and that's it. So now I have here some fields like function and arguments. I say, okay. I do not have to type all the stuff. I copied it in my small editor. We do not want to waste the time. I just write here sentences or keywords or whatever you want to do with it. And I say, okay, I know the application at the BA and I want to insure myself. And I'm an adult. Yes, you see, I'm an adult, but I'm not 70 years old. I'm not so far away from it, but too long. So I think these 3 steps make sense, and I say, okay, I want to save that, and say, okay, save. So now the party begins for the testers, because I can say, okay, I want to record the stuff if the application is already here. If you are at the beginning of a software development process, the application is not there, but the BA or the business analyst can write down what they think we have to go through to accept the feature we want to deliver, and then they check it in the version control system like code, and the developers and testers can do this their work, and step by step they can record the test, or they can program the test. That depends on your knowledge. So I'm a business analyst here in this role. I'm now here, and so now I have no knowledge about code. I say, okay, I want to use browser. The test case is dental insurance. It creates a scenario file, and I want to use the Firefox browser, and here's the URL I want to use. Okay. Now Sai is starting automatically the correct browser I have selected, and it starts a controller in the background. And what you can see here is SAI gives you the information which steps you should do. So accept technical cookies. That's the German one. It calls accept technical cookies. If you want to learn German, no problem. I give you deeple.com is a good choice. Then the script where I want to store the stuff, and there you see an AR file. SAI is using a special model which puts it on the system under test, and it calls accessor repository file. I've created some accessor repositories in the before I start the presentation, because then we can see what is the big advantage if you use accessor repository files in your organization, because you have to declare only once which dialog, here's the cookie dialog, and not on every other team or in any other feature set or whatever. You do it once, and then the others can use it. That's a very great thing. I also, as a business analyst role here, I understand that and say, okay, I want to do that. And now you see here in the top recording, accept technical cookies. Very important for business testing is to give them the knowledge how to create automated tests. We are no humans, we are robots now. And robots mean 3A, arrange, action, and assert. That's the 3 steps of every step I have to do. So arrange means, am I really on the correct page to do my testing? And here you see, if I hover over the dialog with the command key on Windows machines, it's the Alt key because it's a Java application, it uses the system. Then I can say, okay, that accessor looks not very nice. And I say, okay, just go around, and you see a red line going through the application to show me which is the correct dialog I have now my focus on. If I do it correctly, oh, somebody used it already. And here you see then the AR key, cookies dialog. I say, okay, I want to assert that I'm on the cookies dialog. I know that only visible is for me important, so I say just this line I want to test. Okay, that is true, and then I say append. So the arrange step is now finished. The next thing I want to do is to click on the button, and normally I can use the record and play stuff, but you will see in the complex world of new modern web applications, sometimes more happens. We will see it on the next page. So, but in this case, I know I can click here on, but that is looking not so nice. I can hover here around. Somebody used it already, and then I say, click on it. And you see the action. I could also use the click button on the web page, but I want to see that and say, okay, append that. So now also that step, if I have made action, I have to assert the stuff. So, and then I go again to the page and say, okay, this is the heading I have seen before. I want to see that it's asserted. Can select it and say, okay, test it, append it. So I think this knowledge is absolutely okay for a business analyst. It is not a problem for a tester, and it's not a problem for a developer. A developer can also see the code and make and program some things around if they want to do. But this is very easy. I say, okay, function is ready, and we are done. So then Sahi said, hey, there's another point. We want to record. I would ensure myself. I say, okay. 3A, arrange, action, and assert. I say, okay, I want to do that. First thing, I'm on the page is the arrange. I say, okay, assert again. I say, test it. Looks nice. So, and now I want to click the button. I could do the same I have did on the acceptance cookies dialog, but this button is not only a button. You see an image, and I know that's also a radio button. You have to select mich or mein Kind, which means me or my child. And I say, okay, I do not want to get a problem there. I just click the stuff, and then you see, oh, there's a radio button behind. So it's not just the image, it's also a radio button. And then I have here the go again button, or we say here continue, and I click on it, and the action is done. Now I have to assert that I have the action really passed. I say, okay, I assert this one, and I just want to see that it's visible, test it, append, and we are done. And the last step, you see also always small step, is something I love in SAHI Pro, because that is one of the tools which has it in place, but not the other ones. I just do not the arrange again, because you know I would do that. I just say, okay. And if I type here the stuff in, I use, that's the birth date. You see, it always will be recorded. And I say, okay, go ahead. And then I say, okay, how to insert that? Oh, there's a heading. I say, okay, insert that. And I'm done. As you have seen, I have written no programming line, nothing. It is not low code, it's just good code. Because if you do small steps, you cannot do anything worse. So, and then we're done. And now that is really the great thing of SAHI Pro, because it detects that there could be some parameters I could use for other test case steps. And that's what I will do. I want to have the birthday, I want to have the birth month, and I want to have the birth year. And the documentation is being done by SAHI Pro. So not I have to do nothing and say save, and then I'm done. Now, after a while, SAHI is reloading the stuff, and now you see the arguments have been added, and I could use this test case step more than once and could add some other stuff there. And now I want to see if it runs. I hope my time is good. Otherwise, the moderator should stop me because my timer is going black. Sorry. I say playback, and I say, okay, Firefox, just sequence. You have more parameters here. You can show advanced setting. I'm a BA in my role. I do not want to do that. I just want to use the test case. And as you see, it always uses a clean profile, and it do the test, and it is ready and done. And it do the same also on other browsers. So you can use, for example, also the Chrome browser. Also nice. I click on it, it starts Chrome, because on the left side you see SAHI has detected that I have Chrome here, and you see click, click, click. Oh, what's happening here? Something happens. It's not going ahead, so there's a problem. And that is where tools are going into the good case or into the worst case. And if you want to work with this tool, it's very easy to say, I want to see the functional details, or I want to see the logs, or want to see the docs. It is all in one place in the browser. I can go to the logs and can say, hey, I have a problem here with the browser Chrome. You get a good reporting. You get always a screenshot. You get always the information, oh, that was the problem. I cannot enter the date, and you can see, I'm on the correct page? Yes, you can see it. That is the correct page. That is only my editor, nothing. So I can click on it and can say, okay, yes, it is on the correct page. What's happening there? So I want to look around and want to see what's the problem there. And I can say also, as a business analyst, if I have learned to make automation tests, I can say, okay, I want to see the function details of that function and say, open it. And now I can say, okay, the problem was here, and I click on it and say, okay, that's my breakpoint. And now I can say to SAHI Pro, just playback, but I will use the debug mode. And then SAHI will stop working at that case, and that's only the translation because it's an empty profile, will stop at that statement, and then I can switch to the record button and I can go over it, and you see if I go into birth date, that's here, and looking in that, they have used not a text box, they have used a number box on Chrome. That is not a bug from SAHI, that is a bug in my application here, because we have created for Chrome a special way how to present the birthday field, and also the month and also the year, I can promise you. And in the maintenance of the test code and in the maintenance of the production code, you have to have now two ways for a small field. That makes no sense. So you have correct that, or the developers have to correct that, and that was also an issue as I have written. So because you have to reduce also the maintenance cost of the code, if you're a BA, you can help them to get that stuff running correctly. I have made a copy of that because SAHI has no problems to handle that for a meanwhile, so that you can test also the stuff in Chrome. It's no problem. But just a second. I can put it here in. I reduce that one, and now you see the difference where I have the knowledge of. That is, I can say if it's Chrome, then use the number box. If it's something else, use the text box. So that's the only thing I want to show. It's no problem. If you want to look at docs, you can see all stuff you want to know about SAHI. And I have demonstrated is Chrome, for example. So from one place, you get all information you need, all documentation you need to get the test running. And yes, I can program something in. I can also say to the developers, hey, I have no knowledge about programming, so please do that for me. The integration of SAHI's code inside a real developer IDE, that is, for example, IntelliJ, it's very easy to show you that it's really a CSV file. And you see, for example, that this is JavaScript. And I can use all the stuff I can use in a real developer IDE. For example, the buttons I haven't used, I see here in a different color. So also the developer can work together with the BA and with the tester to help them to clean the code, to make it robust and all stuff like that. Yeah, thank you for your time, and I hope I give you some information about business-driven test automation. Any questions?
Hi, George. It was a lovely session. We've got so many likes just pouring in like anything. Beautiful session was it? Okay, we'll start with the questions and answer session. So we have a question by Ritika Malhotra. What is exactly the behavior-driven development? Is it related to automation framework development?
Behavior-driven development is a development pattern we use, for example, in our company. We describe the functionality at the beginning of the process. So normally, you know, the test is at the end of the story. That was used here in my company many decades, and now we are putting the thinking about how to create the system at the beginning with the different roles. And then we use, for example, event storming, feature mapping, risk storming, and stuff like that to get the acceptance tests designed, and then the developers use it in their specification code to write tests against the behavior of the system. And the business-driven test automation matches exactly in that thing, because it thinks about the behavior of a system and not about the code of a system. That's the difference.
All right. Another question by Sudhanshu Bala Raut. It's BDD, Behavioral Driven Development. With this, we have a framework with JBehave or Cucumber, and here we make our automation tests in the form of business story form using a special language, Gherkin,
Okay.
which is
Yeah.
English like with given, when, and then annotations.
Yes, we also use. Yeah, we also use Gherkin, and we use also Cucumber and Serenity BDD. Maybe you know the tool; it's very great. But we use it also, or we have implemented prototyping it with Sahi Pro. Just go to Taito, to the booth, and ask them. They have helped me to get it on board, because the thinking of Gherkin is no problem to put it in the case of Sahi Pro. It's just another tool instead of using whatever you want to use for your graphical user interface or whatever. So ask them, because it works. But you need more programming knowledge if you are behind the Gherkin language. The Gherkin language is exactly what Sahi is also doing with the CSV file with the scenario, but behind there's more code than normal. Okay.
All right.
Hope that makes it clear.
Okay. Another question we have: can this be used to test application in multiple language or multilingual language?
So language, I think there's thinking about the natural language or the programming language.
I'm not sure. I guess it should be programming language only.
Okay,
Not
there are.
no idea about that.
Pardon?
No idea. That's what the question was. So I'm not sure which they're exactly asking for.
Yeah, okay. Natural languages, no problem. You can use different. I'm a German, so I have the problem. Sahi and the good guys are sitting in Bangalore, and so I want to use it in German language. It's no problem for me, because I can write all the test stuff also in German language. And you can also use localization stuff. It's no problem. And if you mean programming languages, there are bridges also to Java. I know. I think there are some more. Maybe you ask them. They are here.
All right. Okay. So I guess that would be the end of this session. Thank you so much. Guys, if you want to meet George, you can see him in the lobby if you want to discuss anything further. Thank you so much. In the meanwhile, you can also go to the booths where we have all our sponsors. If you want to interact, we still have 5 minutes to go for the other session. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Hello. Please tell me someone's there.
So we have Mike Talks today, and this session would be really, really interesting, as the topic itself says. So Mike is test manager and coach is within Wellington, New Zealand. Mike was one of the peer editors and contributor to Lisa Crispin and Janet Gregory's More Agile Testing, as well as a writer in his own right, having produced the book To How to Test. So I hand over to you, Mike, without any more further discussions. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. Right, getting my controls ready. I'm here to talk about 2020, the year we learned to work from home, and a lot of the lessons we took from what has been, well, I'd like to say an incredible year, but it's been an incredible 2 years before you know it. So prior to 2020, if you know me, you know I'm usually fairly active on Twitter, and lots of discussion prior to 2020. It was a big theme, actually, in More Agile Testing about working from home. And the question really was, put it out to my peers, was working from home a norm for you? Well, it didn't really seem to be. Every time we talked about working from home, at least around New Zealand, it was like, oh, I don't really think it'll work. Doesn't the team need to be co-located? How do you work as a team when you're in different parts of New Zealand? Never mind the world. Yeah, no, to build something, you need to be in an office all together. During your 40 hours a week. So I've lost my mouse. Of course I'm having IT problems. It's testing. Today, when we ask the same question, is working from home a norm for you? We get a very, very different response. It's been, 2020, 2021, actually. It changed a lot. There was a meme, that really summed this up in 2019, and it was something like this: a company fretting of which button to press. We only hire the best, and the other button that says, "Well, we don't do remote." Yeah, and people going, "Oh, which is it? Do we only hire the best?" Or do we don't do the remote? The idea that you only hire the best people who can actually turn up into your office. And this was a big it was Kevin Abreu who I saw this tweet about, and I just really want to credit him for this. So we all wanted to try working from home. We all knew it had its challenges, but there was a lot of resistance to it. And then 2019 passed into 2020, and something like this happened. Now, I live in New Zealand, and I'm very aware that depending on where you are around the world, your experience with COVID-19 will have been very different. We had a very relatively mild experience with it. We didn't have too many cases, but we didn't have too many cases because we had to go into lockdown. And lockdown for us meant don't go into the office. It meant pretty much staying in at home as much as we could. And it meant, obviously, working from home. So our new reality looked a little bit like this. That's my office. You can see a couple of weights, and I'm looking outside at the neighbour's house. This was my new office, and it was comfortable. You can see I've got a cup of coffee there. I've got a fan, I've got a light, I've got a couple of very nice monitors. But one of the things I'm missing is the rest of my team. So how did it go? Well, after the first 2 weeks, we had a remote session with people across my company, and we did a bit of a debrief, a bit of a retrospective to talk about, so we've been in lockdown for 2 weeks. How's it going, everyone? And there were some very similar themes coming up. One of which I'd like to, it's amazing how much this is dated. I don't know if any of you remember this news story of a guy who was working from home and being interviewed on the BBC. And he's talking about a political situation. I can't remember the exact one. And then just in the middle of it, his son kind of walks in, says, "How's it going, Dad? What are you doing? Who are you speaking to over there? Hey, hello!" 2017, we thought this was hilarious, yeah? 2019, this was every day. This was almost every day that we were working. One of my particular favorites was one of my developers, and he worked in his kid's music room. And similar to this story, there would be, "Hey, Dad, how's it going?" And you'd hear a lid being lifted, and then all of a sudden there'd be like, ding, 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 and he'd be playing on his piano. And he'd be like, and my co-worker would be saying, "I'm on a call. Can you do this a bit later, please?" Yes, I know you want to do it now, but I'm talking to people and they can't hear you. This would become our normal and our reality, and we laughed about it because my son's grown up and left the house. But it was a very real thing that a lot of our team had to go through, balancing working from home and domestic items would happen in the work day. But in general, comedy aside, there were 4 main themes that everyone really experienced. And they were causing stress. And most of this was around communications. Now, the first thing was a sense of miscommunication fatigue. This is where communication just feels like it's that much harder to do. And a lot of people are getting the wrong end of the stick, and you just seem to have to explain yourself a lot. I'm just making sure that I'm using experimental settings, so if I hear a ding, I'm worried that the organisers are telling me something's going wrong. This is another experience that we have, of course, because we're working from home and we're responsible for our own IT, which includes also our own Wi-Fi. And occasionally my Wi-Fi just goes down in the middle of something. So if I cut to a black screen, that will be why. Number 2 was feeling isolated from the team. Like you saw in my my picture, I was feeling quite comfortable at home with my cup of coffee, looking at what's going on at the neighbours, plenty of screens, but kind of isolated from everyone else. Number 3 was just the very process of organising. What are we working on? How's it going? What are we doing next? That involved a bit of a challenge. And just the 4th was the general thing of, we're dealing with all these things going on regarding communication, but there's a pandemic going around, and that's, we can't ignore the fact that that's a cause of stress itself. So let's have a bit of a look at these. So miscommunication. Yeah, well, my team was a bit new to everything to do with video conferences, video phone conferences, and it was a learning curve. I would call every video conference that we held in the first 2 weeks chaotic, yeah? Absolutely chaotic. For starters, we didn't have these things, these babies, yeah? We join a conference with our microphone and our speaker on our laptop, blink, and we'd be in. And more often than not, because it's a rocky thing to happen, the volume would be so loud on the speaker that it would be picked up from the microphone. And so it would be things like, "Hey, Mike, the little echo that keeps going on and on and on. If it doesn't get that kind of when you get the feedback loop. We had a lot of that. A lot of it. And it was difficult and stressful and trying to work out who the echo was coming, telling them, can you turn off your mic, please? There was a whole etiquette around video calls that we had to learn. And it was things like, hey, let's turn off my mic if I'm not speaking. Let's maybe raise my hand rather than butt in, because it becomes like a whole gabble of people speaking on top of it. Another problem that we had, and with our initial solution, was, as I was saying, our bandwidth really struggled. The whole country's in lockdown. Everyone's on Netflix. And you do a video conference and people are dropping in and out. So we did the obvious thing, which was turn off our video cameras. That caused a bit of a problem. So why did it cause a bit of a problem? Sorry, who's my MC today? I've forgotten. I'd written the name and now I've gone and lost it in my stress. Are you there? I'd like to ask you just to type into the comments, why did you think turning off the video camera caused chaos? Please tell me someone's there. Hey, Viddy.
Yeah, hi, John. Hi, Mike. Tell me, what am I supposed to write?
So, can people write in the chat what
yes,
they
are writing.
Cool. We'll just take a bit of a pause.
They're saying people would be sleeping. Not sure if you're talking alone.
Yep, those are good ones, and I think that happened.
No idea what other people is doing.
Yep.
Roaming out, unable to get what is happening on the other end.
Yep. These are all really good answers. There's one very specific one I'm going to talk about though now, and we're going to play a little game, which is, so keep the keyboard nearby. But have you ever heard, hopefully you've all heard of the Game of Thrones. Have you all heard of the Game of Thrones? Type a quick yes if you have.
Yes, all at every yes.
Brilliant.
Of course.
Brilliant. So I'm going to play what I call the Game of Hodor. So a quick brownie points. What's special about Hodor?
Communication.
Yep. So what about him in particular? I'll wait a couple of seconds.
Hold the door.
Hold the door. Well, I'm waiting for a particular answer. I don't think I'm going to get it, so I'll just go on. What's unusual about Hodor?
Repetition, verbal communication, power.
Yeah. Hodor only says one word, yeah? His whole vocabulary exists of one word, and that word is the word Hodor, yeah? So, I'm going to try and play what I call the Game of Hodor. So, I'm just going to say the word Hodor, and I would like you to type in the chat what you think I'm trying to say, yeah? Or what's going on with me, yeah? Okay, so Hodor. Hodor.
Frustration, frustrated, hold on, tired.
Brilliant.
Sighing.
Brilliant. That's really good. So I'm going to play it again. I'm going to play about another
Panic
2 games.
And impatient.
Yeah. So I'm going to go, Hodor! Hodor. What am I saying there?
Excited, joy, hooray, boredom, party time.
Brilliant.
Victory.
Hodor. Yeah. And finally, kind of Hodor.
Victory, dancing,
That was before. What's that now? Oh,
commanding.
Hodor.
Commanding.
Yeah. Angry. Yeah. Brilliant.
Energetic.
Okay.
Aggression.
Yeah, probably a little bit. Okay, so how did I make 3 words mean 3 different things? And what has that got to do with turning off a video camera in a conference? Well, it's just this one fact. One of the reasons, by the way, that his name's Kieran, I can't remember his last name, is really regarded for his role, his one-word role. Part of me imagines him getting a script and reading through a script and going, Hodor. Oh yeah, I can memorize all this. But he uses one word and it means so many different things. He really conveys to you what's going on in his head. And this is because 90% of communication is non-verbal. When we're all in an office together and we're looking at somebody and someone's kind of going, it's like the word great. Great is like a Hodor word. Great can mean, oh, great, yeah? And which means things are really good. There's, oh, great, which means kind of sarcasm's creeping in, doesn't really mean things are quite so great. And of course, if I start throwing stuff and go, well, this is great, I'm really angry. One word, you can look it up in the dictionary, say what it means, but see what it's supposed to mean. But how you say it is so important. So when we're in an office, we are radiating a lot of non-verbal communication by our demeanor, whether we're smiling or not. How we're moving our hands, if we're moving our hands really angrily, the tone of voice, yeah? When you start to work remotely, you're not seeing all this radiating verbal non-communication. And if you start turning off your camera, and if you start dropping your phone calls in favor of just typing responses at each other, you can see that although you're communicating with language, with words, it's not as effective for just explaining what's going on with you, is what this means to you, what you're saying. And a couple of our senior managers said, it feels really difficult talking to our customers when you can't be in the same room as them because there's so much stuff that you're missing out on. So, what was our enemies? What was making our communications less effective? Well, the first of which was email. Trying to communicate and do ideas by email. Email's not terrible, but it is pretty bad. Yeah, and I'll explain a little bit about that later. Although email happens relatively quickly, it's not the same. You don't get the same interaction as really having a conversation on the phone, or even just doing it in a chat application. Because what happens is somebody sends you an email, and then you go, oh, they need an answer to that. I'll get onto that in a couple of hours, and then you write a really long thing back, and then you send that back to them. And then in the meantime, they've actually got really annoyed, or somebody else has started to pick up on this email. And so you hold a conversation, instead of having it in the space of 5-10 minutes, you spin this conversation over days, maybe even a week, yeah? And, you'll hit reply to something, and James will hit reply to something else, and it becomes a whole big mess of, what are we actually talking about? People are talking over each other, and before you know it, it's like you get these really long emails where people tend to read the first paragraph and go, I don't think that applies to me. I won't read the rest. And it's like, actually, the third paragraph was important. So email can just become absolute chaos. And like I say, it's very difficult to see for everyone to be contributing and to form what I call like a narrative. Yeah, you've got an email chain, but that's not as good as just people talking and responding. Yeah. Secondly, not a big surprise, was that turning off the video camera. Without the video camera, we couldn't see how people were saying things, and without that extra little bits of body language to clue into, okay, someone's finding this a bit challenging, someone's just finding this a little bit rough, someone's getting a bit frustrated at this point. It just felt that tension simmered, and amongst other things, it meant that people, we'd have these meetings, and then we'd have after these meetings or after the email, things like, "What did you mean when you said such and such?" So a lot of miscommunication was happening, and then we'd have to recommunicate to kind of bring ourselves back onto the same page. Or even worse, we didn't, and we just kind of went on with what we think we'd agreed, and we'd come back in a couple of days going, "I thought you were going to do that. No, you were going to do that. I thought you said it was not a problem." Things like that. So, yeah, how do we get around this? Well, trying to do as much as possible to do things in a video conference, keep the video cameras on, to create better etiquette about things like, okay, you can put your hand up, someone will facilitate, you put your hand up, the facilitator will say, okay, Mike wants to make a point of this. Although, very importantly, the person facilitating shouldn't have a big stake, because they're there to make the meeting really fluid and happening. Our second problem, isolation. So I'm sitting in my office at home, and there's a lovely kid, but she's a little bit loud on a trampoline across the roads, and my wife will call me up when she thinks I need to make a coffee. But I'm really, every interaction with my team, first 2 weeks, is all business. It's like, "Hey, Mike, have you done this yet? Hey, Mike, what was that problem you had? Hey, Mike, hey, Mike, which environment are you using? Hey, Mike, where are you? Hey, Mike, what's going on? Hey, Mike, what are you working on?" It's everything. Every bit of communication between us as a team is really, really, about business. And one of the reasons our team works so well, is because when we'd worked together in an office for 6 months before this, and we'd kind of got each other's backs. We'd joke, we'd laugh. We'd talk about stuff that wasn't always work, and it just helped to gel us and see that my developers are not people I'm just going to tell their code's not working, and my developers aren't just people who are telling me, who I'm asking, when can I test this? When can I test this? It's about seeing the other people in your team as people, which is really important, yeah, and to understand what's going on with them, and that kind of empathy really helps you to build really solid working relationships so that you can work so much closer together. Now, the problem is when we're working from home, it's things aren't, it becomes, well, the only reason you should communicate with other people in the team is because there's something you need, there's something you want, there's an update thing, and that's not really great at building relationships. So we had to really work at creating a kind of virtual water cooler. In fact, what we ended up doing, we have a dedicated chat thread on Teams where it's no business. You should never talk anything about work or business on this. It's the team chit chat and food updates, and it does that. So this is the thread where we go, "Good morning, everyone. It's a nice day today. It's raining." Occasionally, we run competitions to compare who had the better lunch, who was the most inventive. We also do things like bake-offs where we kind of like showcase our food to each other. and the like. And we went beyond that. So on a Friday, we'd put aside half an hour and we'd play some online games as a group using Teams. Scriblio, which is a kind of Scribble version, that was really, really popular. It showcased some of us couldn't spell, let's put it that way. And just some of the crazy drawings that we produced from that were kind of a little bit disturbing, actually. But it was really good fun, and it kind of really helped us to chill out at the end of a week, and really build those relationships so that we're seeing other people as people. We're also blowing off steam together and having fun. Jackbox games, another really great thing to play online. A little bit more complicated, but was a lot of fun. So at this point, we're communicating better. We're also socially interacting better. And so what's next? Well, the next thing was trying to organize what we were doing. So fortunately for me, we knew that lockdown was coming. We could see it on the horizon. We saw other countries were doing that. So kind of looking at our Kanban board, which was physical, and yeah, going, well, short of getting a robot to kind of grab the post-it notes and drag it across, a physical Kanban board is not going to work for us. So we had to look at some options. What's the equivalent of a Kanban board that we can use whilst working remotely? And we picked, in the end, we chose Jira. And of course, the physical Kanban board was one of the reasons why we needed to work in the office and not from home, because we've got a physical Kanban board. But we found ways to work with Jira. Kind of scary thing to do, though, was putting everything that was on Jira, that was on our Kanban board, our entire backlog, into Jira, trying to desperately quickly write up every story that we'd fleshed out. That was a real and replicate the board perfectly. That was done a little bit against the clock. Was a little challenging, but we got there. And then Jira became norm. Jira became the norm. Be really careful about this. Yeah. So I championed Jira. The team didn't like it at first, and then they got really used to it. And then at some point, I became the Jira expert for the team. And that's meant I had to kind of fix it a lot. So there's kind of it was a bit of a mixed blessing. It was good. It was working. But our project manager particularly loved it. The developers got really used to just updating things as they went along. And I taught my project manager how to look at the board and say, here's what's going on. We can even do reports on defects, what states that they're in. And it allows you to get a picture of, what we're going to achieve this sprint. He absolutely loved that, because obviously you can't look at a Kanban board and go, Kanban board, give me a report. Where you can kind of do that with Jira. Okay. And a bit like I've said, email chains versus discussion. Every so often with one of those tasks, there was something that needed to be explored. And our general way of doing this would be, let's create an email chain. And for the reason that I've said, email chains can get really out of hand, that you send out emails and the response happens. An email chain is no substitute for just getting everyone into a meeting room and discussing it. You don't always have that option. Sometimes just creating, I'm going to create a discussion thread about this one issue so that we can all kind of contribute, and we'll see if I can kind of sum it up. And if we can reach agreement really, really quickly in about 30 minutes to an hour of just chat, we'll make that and we'll record that decision. If, however, the chat goes on and on for longer than an hour, it's like, okay, this isn't going to work. let's call a video conference for this at some point, and let's go through this and discuss it as a group with a proper agenda. That was one of the things that we found really helpful. Yeah, pretty much as I've said, discussion threads much easier to see, to use, and as you can see, you create a thread, and everything to do with this one subject goes down. It didn't always work brilliantly, and unfortunately, every so often, I would have to be the person that would say, that's interesting, but that's not what this chat thread's about. Can you take it somewhere else? Because it's very easy for people to get in the wrong chat group. As I said, I set up a gossip chit chat and food thread, and every so often someone would put that into a technical discussion, and I'd have to unfortunately be the policeman that would say, oh, this isn't the thread for this. Can you put it in somewhere else? This is supposed to be about, if you fill it full of very delicious looking dumplings, yeah, it's gonna make it very hard to remember what we've decided. So that is a downside, but we sorted it. So what the fourth item? So we've talked about 3 real causes of stress at working from home, but now it's time to really talk about the unfortunate elephant in the room, and that's COVID-19. We can talk all we like about, body language, cameras, communicating better, finding appropriate places to communicating, organizing ourselves online. But we're missing a really, really important element about why we are feeling really stressed at the end of 2 weeks in lockdown. And that's the fact that, there is a world pandemic going on and people are getting sick. For those of you that didn't know, March 2020, my son was living in the UK. I live in New Zealand, opposite sides of the world. And we get a call at about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And he rings me and he says, something's up with me. I can't really breathe. There's something up with my chest. And I'm waiting for an ambulance and I'm really scared. And I was talking to a friend of mine about this today, and I said, without a doubt, it was the worst day of my life. Yeah. He made a full recovery. He is someone who would work 60 hours a week, and I've still got loads of energy to go out at the weekend. And this thing that happened to him completely floored him for 2 weeks. He didn't end up going to hospital, but he was just completely smashed by it. Yeah. He was really lucky. He's made a full recovery. It was very, very scary. How does something like that happen to you on a Thursday? For me, at 5 p.m, and I turn up to work at 9 a.m. on a Friday morning and pretend this isn't going on. You just don't. It's very present in your mind, very worrying. Throughout our lockdown, I would wake up about 3 in the morning, and I would do everything that you're not supposed to do, and I'd leave my phone right next to my door, to my bed, and if I woke up at some really odd hour and needed a drink of water, I would open up the app and I'd do a refresh to see the COVID numbers in the UK and America and see what was going on. And that was always really sobering and really terrifying because I had a lot of good friends there. The fact of the matter is, it was a pandemic. It wasn't just the lockdown. We were in lockdown because of a very deadly pandemic. And I'm very aware of just how bad things went, first in Italy, then in the UK, then in America, and then obviously in India as well, because I've got a lot of friends that come from there. And yeah, there's no escaping the fact that it was stressful. Watching, hoping for a vaccine, hoping it would be delivered in time, hoping that you wouldn't see any more family fall ill or, God forbid, any worse. I have a lot of friends in the UK who lost their parents last year because of this. It was very, very, very terrifying year. And let's just talk about that a little bit. I had to deal with a little bit with that. I had to reach out and use my most workplaces have got a counselling scheme. I obviously suffered from really bad anxiety and a lot of worry about my son. I can say to you, he got better after 2 weeks. That was a hell of a 2-week wait to know that he was better and it was behind him, and really a whole month before I knew it really was behind him. Yeah. I felt really anxious about that. I felt really helpless being on the other side of the world. I just said, how do you get a phone call like that at 5 o'clock on Thursday afternoon and then go into work 9 a.m. on Friday? Well, I did go into work. I did turn up late. I did tell my boss what was going on, and they were supportive. And I did end up having to use some counselling because I was really anxious. And most workplaces should have understandable bosses. Bosses, you can say, today's not going to be my greatest day. I opened it up by doing that. Unfortunately, before the year was down, we're a highly international team, and we've got people from Brazil, America, South Africa, India, China, and my experience was not alone. It was an experience that a lot of people went through with friends and family that were abroad. It was really terrifying. So it was really important for us, all the stuff that we've talked about, the cameras, the finding ways to have fun, but also ways to be open and to be supportive of each other when really bad things happen. Right. I was going to ask, this can wait just for questions. When we open for questions, we're going to have about 5 minutes. I'd love to also know things that you've learned in this year, because it should be like a two-way. Don't just ask me questions. I'd love to hear what you're up to as well. But I will say this. I contributed to a book called Software People Work From Home. Stephen Camper and Mike Noggins, who were big in the German agile testing scene, they reached out to people across the world going, hey, we're all on this learning journey about working from home. We're trying to capture as many stories as we can. It's a free book. I recommend you find it and read it, and I really enjoy it. My story's in there. My story is very much based on this talk. It's called "The Beginning of a Video Conference is Indistinguishable from Sales," because every video conference we had in those first 2 weeks involved the poor facilitators reaching into the void and saying, hello there, can you hear me? Is there anybody out there? Because it was the chaos of just getting people's microphones to work, people's speakers to work. It was crazy. Anyway, do we have any questions?
Hi. It was really very interactive session and very, very interesting. As you can see yourself, the lots of smileys and things coming out. And yes, I would say that, of course, there's no question on this because nobody has written anything. So,
like I say, question or do share stuff. Because
but yeah,
these are my learnings.
I think we're all, and everything is pouring in.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the nice smiles. I would just add, unfortunately, I feel there's going to be a footnote to this conference because beginning of to this piece, towards the end of 2020, the thing I heard from everyone is, my company tells me, thank goodness for working from home. It saved the company because when lockdown happened, we could still produce and deliver to our customer, and most importantly, get paid. What I'm hearing, unfortunately, over the last couple of months is, and a lot of places like my workplace, even when lockdown ended, so okay, working from home is really good. We're not going to put the brake on it. We'll work in a hybrid fashion where we work a few days from home and a few days in the office. But I know a few people, unfortunately, mainly in America, where it's like, well, our plan for 2022 is you've done your work from home, get ready to come back into the office. And what my team really have learned is we like working from. We've found a way to work from home and to spend. I found I'm much more productive when I'm at home. Yeah, but I know it's really important that I come into the office once in a while. So we work 2 days in the office, 3 days at home. But it is really disappointing to see, and a lot of places are embracing that. But it's disappointing to see some places going, no, 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 no. We're going back all the way. If I can just really scroll backwards really quickly, we're going back to this, yeah. Where we only hire the best, we don't do remote, yeah. And I really hope that's not going to be the case because we made this work, and unfortunately, with things like Delta, the pandemic average so often we think it's got under control with vaccines, and then it goes out of control a little bit. Yeah, working from home has been effective at keeping our businesses operational and keep our people safe as well. So, I hope it's something that's with us to stay and something that we can find a good balance between working from home and working for the office.
Correct. All right. Thank you, Guy. Thank you so much, Mike. I would like to tell to audience that if you want to still talk to Mike, he will be available in the lobby. And you can also go to the booths for more interactions with our sponsors. Thank you so much. Now we head on to the next session. Thank you.
Thank you very much.